She scoffed. I'm not wasting my 20s on a dead-end blackjack dealer who can't even afford my lifestyle. A week before her birthday, I said. Noted, quietly reserved the Bellagio's top penthouse and poured her a drink. Her smile vanished the moment the real owner walked in. I'm Colt, 28, and for the past 4 years I've been working as a blackjack dealer at the Bellagio. Nothing fancy, just dealing cards and collecting tips from tourists and high rollers. What most people don't know is that my family owns 40% of the casino properties on the Strip. We're talking about a portfolio worth close to $2 billion, built up over 3 generations, starting with my great-grandfather's first small casino in downtown Vegas. Here's the thing I learned growing up around serious casino money. Wealth makes people behave in ways that tell you everything about who they really are. I've watched relationships fall apart when people found out about our family's financial situation. Some wanted to use the connection for their own benefit, others became intimidated and distant. None of them seemed to want me for just being me. So when I met Vesper 8 months ago, I made a deliberate choice. Keep the family wealth completely hidden, live like I really was just a dealer making $45,000 a year plus tips, see what kind of person she was when she thought I was just another working-class guy trying to make it in Vegas. I met her at a Starbucks on Flamingo Road. She was there every Tuesday morning before her shift at Nordstrom, scrolling through her phone and posting Instagram stories about her coffee and outfit choices. I'd been stopping there for months after my overnight shifts, and we'd made eye contact a few times. Finally worked up the nerve to compliment her nail art. She was gorgeous, obviously, but also had this energy that drew people in. We talked for an hour that first morning about everything from Vegas nightlife to her aspirations of building a social media following. She worked part-time as a sales assistant at Nordstrom while trying to grow her Instagram into something profitable. Currently sitting at about 15,000 followers, mostly posting lifestyle and fashion content. From day one, I could tell she was constantly calculating financial angles. Not necessarily in a gold-digging way, but like someone who'd grown up without much money and was always aware of economic opportunities. When I told her I worked at the Bellagio, I saw her eyes light up. "Oh wow, casino work must be really good money with all those tips," she said immediately. I deliberately understated my situation, telling her I made decent money but nothing extraordinary. Wanted to see how she'd react to dating someone who appeared to be solidly working class rather than wealthy. Over the next several months, I got an education in how people with financial insecurities view relationships as economic partnerships. Never directly demanding, never obviously manipulative, but there were constant requests and expectations that revealed her mindset about what I should provide. "Can you help me with my nails this week? It's only $200 and I know you guys get great tips," she'd ask casually. "There's this cute boutique in the Forum Shops, but everything's so expensive. Maybe we can go when you've had a good week at work," she'd suggest. "You work at one of the biggest casinos on the Strip. You must be making bank with all those rich tourists," she'd say whenever we discussed money. Her friend Tessa was constantly reinforcing these attitudes. Another wannabe influencer who worked retail, but she had this way of making comments that suggested I should be doing more financially for Vesper. "Girl, you're dating a casino dealer, he should be taking you out more," Tessa would say when they thought I couldn't hear. The pattern became clear quickly. Vesper would borrow money for various things: $300 for a weekend trip with friends, $500 for new clothes for her Instagram content, $800 for a music festival ticket because it's important for my brand to be seen at these events. I always gave her the money, partly because I could afford it easily, but mostly because I was curious to see how far this would go. She never offered to pay anything back, always had new expenses that required my help, and constantly talked about how hard it was to get ahead financially. "It's so frustrating being young in this economy," she'd say. "Like, I work hard but everything's so expensive. Thank God you have that steady casino income." Her view of our future together was always framed in terms of financial advancement. Not our emotional connection, not shared goals or values, but whether I had ambition to make more money. "Have you thought about dealing private games? I heard those pay way better," she'd suggest. "Maybe you could get promoted to floor supervisor eventually. Those guys probably make decent salaries, she'd add. What she didn't understand was that I was already beyond any promotion she could imagine. I was dealing cards because I wanted to understand every aspect of the casino business from the ground up, not because I needed the income. My family had been preparing me to eventually take over operations of several properties, and my dad insisted I start from the bottom. "You can't manage what you don't understand," he'd always said. So there I was, dealing blackjack to tourists while learning the business that I'd one day help run. Only my coworker Jace knew about my real situation. We'd been friends since I started, and he'd figured it out when he saw my brother picking me up from work one day in a car that cost more than most people's annual salaries. "Man, your family's loaded," he'd said quietly during a break. "Why are you working here?" I'd explained the situation, and he'd been cool about keeping it quiet. But he also started noticing things about Vesper that bothered him. "She only talks to you about money, bro," he pointed out after meeting her a few times. "Like, every conversation somehow comes back to what you can buy or where you can take her." I'd started to notice it too, but I wanted to see how deep it went. That's when I overheard the phone conversation that changed everything. It was about 6 weeks ago. I'd come over to her apartment to pick her up for dinner, but she was in her bedroom talking to someone. The walls were thin and I could hear everything clearly. "Yeah, the dealer thing is working out pretty well," she was saying, clearly talking to Tessa. "He's so naive about money, he actually thinks I'm with him because I like him." My stomach dropped. "I mean, he's sweet and everything, but let's be real, casino dealers make decent tips. It's not like I'm dating him for his personality," she continued with a laugh. "The best part is he just gives me money whenever I ask. Like, he doesn't even question it. I think he feels guilty that he can't afford to treat me better, so he compensates by helping with stuff." I stood there frozen, listening to the woman I thought I was falling in love with describe our relationship like a business transaction. That conversation told me everything I needed to know about what she really thought of me. But instead of confronting her immediately, I decided to test how far her financial priorities really went. The next week, I told her the casino had changed their tip policies and my income had dropped significantly. "Maybe you should look for another job," she suggested immediately. "If they're cutting your pay, maybe it's time to think about something with better earning potential." Within a week, her entire attitude shifted. She became busy more often, canceled dates, and started making comments about needing to evaluate her priorities. That's when Jace told me something that made it crystal clear. "Dude, your girl's back on dating apps," he said. "Her profile says she's looking for ambitious guys only. The bio literally says no time wasters or guys without career goals." When I confronted her, her excuse was pathetic. "I'm just networking for my Instagram." The final test came when I told her about a fake opportunity at work. "Good news," I said over dinner. "Management approached me about a floor supervisor position, 65,000 plus benefits." The transformation was immediate. Suddenly she was interested in my work stories again. She suggested we celebrate with expensive dinner. She started talking about our future together. Then 2 weeks later I told her the opportunity had fallen through. Her explosion was everything I needed to hear. "Are you kidding me right now?" she yelled in the middle of a restaurant. "You know what your problem is? You don't have any real ambition. You're content just dealing cards forever while I'm trying to build something. I can't do this anymore," she continued. "I need stability. I need someone who can match my drive, not someone stuck in a dead-end job forever." That was the moment I knew exactly what I was going to do for her birthday. She'd been dropping hints for weeks. Designer handbag, jewelry, dinner at expensive restaurants. "Nothing crazy," she'd said, "just something that shows you're serious about us." Instead, I planned something completely different. On her birthday, I picked her up in my usual 10-year-old Honda Civic. She was dressed up, clearly expecting a fancy evening. "Where are we going?" she asked as I drove toward the strip. "Surprise, but first I want to show you something at work." Her face fell. "We're going to the casino on my birthday." I drove to the Bellagio and led her to a private elevator that required a keycard. "What is this?" she asked as we went up instead of down to the casino floor. The elevator opened directly into the penthouse suite on the top floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows with panoramic views of the strip, custom furniture worth more than most people's cars, museum-quality art collection. "Colt, what are we doing here? Are we trespassing?" I walked to the bar and poured myself a drink from the top shelf whiskey. Remember how you said I don't have any ambition, how I'm stuck in a dead-end job? You wanted stability, I continued, walking to the window overlooking Las Vegas. You wanted someone who could match your drive, someone successful. She was still by the elevator, confused about why we were in this obviously expensive space. My family owns this casino, I said simply. And 6 others on the Strip. The dead-end job you've been complaining about, I've been working there to learn the business before I take over operations of multiple properties worth about $2 billion. The silence stretched for 30 seconds while she processed what I just told her. 8 months ago, you asked what I did for work. I told you I was a dealer. That was true. What I didn't mention was that my family owns the house. You're rich. The money you've been borrowing for nails and shopping, that's not tips from dealing cards. That's pocket change from a family trust fund that generates more in a day than most dealers make in a year. Why didn't you tell me? She asked, her tone already shifting to the sweet voice she used when she wanted something. Because I wanted to see who you really were. I wanted to know if you'd love me when you thought I had nothing special to offer. But I do love you. No, you don't. The moment you thought my income decreased, you started shopping for someone better. You told Tessa you were only with me for the tips. Her face went pale. She'd forgotten about that conversation. I heard everything, Vesper. How naive I was, how you were just letting me help you financially, how you weren't dating me for my personality. Please, we can work this out. I know I said some stupid things, but I do care about you. You care about what I can do for you. There's a difference. I finished my drink and walked back toward the elevator. I'm taking you home. This relationship is over. The elevator ride down was silent except for her crying. Not the devastated crying of someone losing love, but the panicked crying of someone realizing they'd just blown a major financial opportunity. When I dropped her off, her final words confirmed everything I'd suspected. You realize you're making a huge mistake, right? At least I was honest about what I wanted. But that was exactly the point. She wasn't honest about what she wanted. She'd spent 8 months pretending to care about me while positioning herself to benefit from what she thought I could provide. Update 1. The past month has been damage control gone wrong. Vesper tried every strategy to get back into my life, confirming I made the right decision. She started with tearful phone calls 50 in the first week, voicemails progressing from "I'm sorry" to "I understand why you tested me" to "I deserve another chance." I know I was focused on the wrong things, she said in one message. But now I understand what really matters. It's not about money, it's about love. When calls didn't work, she showed up at the Bellagio, causing a scene in the lobby. I know he's here, she told security when I arrived. I just need 5 minutes to explain. You won't answer my calls, you blocked me everywhere. This is the only way I could reach you. She was dressed like she was going to a job interview, trying to present a different version of herself. I've been thinking about everything you said, and you're right. I was being materialistic, but I can change. You want to change now because you know I have money. That's adaptation, not real change. I need you to leave, I told her. If you come here again, security will call police. Her face shifted from pleading to angry. Fine, but you're going to regret this. Everyone's going to want your money, at least I was upfront about it. The social media campaign started next week. Old photos with captions about working through challenges and love being tested. Trying to rewrite history as relationship problems instead of her being exposed as a gold digger. But the most telling thing was when Jace told me about her dating profiles. She updated her Bumble, he said. Now says she's recently out of a relationship with someone who couldn't handle her success, looking for mature men who understand ambitious women. She was spinning our breakup as if I'd been intimidated by her success instead of disgusted by her materialism, and swiping right on guys with obvious money photos, expensive cars, boats, designer clothes. The transformation from trying to win me back to finding someone wealthier took less than 2 weeks. Update 2. 2 months later, Vesper's attempts to move on created a social media disaster that showed how many people had seen through her behavior all along. Her first replacement was a finance guy who got tired of her constantly posting photos of expensive dates. That lasted 3 weeks. Next was some crypto investor who turned out to be living with his parents. She posted about it on Instagram stories, calling him a fake millionaire who wasted my time. The crypto story went viral locally when someone screenshot it and posted it in a Vegas gossip group with Imagine being mad that someone lied about money. People connected dots about her dating patterns. Her comment sections became brutal. "Girl, just admit you want a sugar daddy," someone wrote. "How many business networking dates this week?" another commented. She tried fighting back with posts about society judging ambitious women, but it backfired when people shared screenshots of her dating profiles mentioning financial requirements. "Looking for established men only if you can't afford somewhere nice. Don't bother," read one screenshot. Her follower count dropped from 15,000 to around 9,000 in 2 months. Devastating for someone trying to build an influencer career. The real damage came when she posted about being betrayed by someone who lied about who they really were, clearly referring to me. People who knew my family started responding. "Girl, if you're talking about who I think you're talking about, you played yourself," wrote someone who'd figured out the connection. But the comment that destroyed her narrative came from strip service industry. "I served this girl multiple times with a certain dealer. She would calculate tips out loud and complain if he didn't tip enough. Now she wants to act like victim." The comment got dozens of likes and responses from people sharing similar observations. Vesper deleted the posts, but screenshots had already spread everywhere. Local guys started recognizing her from the drama. Her match rates dropped significantly once the story became widely known. "She's got a reputation now," Jace told me. "Everyone knows she's the girl who got exposed for gold digging and tried to play victim." Meanwhile, I'd started seeing Rebecca, a pediatric nurse at Sunrise Hospital. She knew nothing about my family's business when we met. When I told her, her response was refreshing. "That's cool, but it doesn't change anything about who you are." Rebecca had her own career, goals, financial independence. She never asked for money, never suggested expensive activities, never measured our relationship by what I could provide. The most satisfying moment came when Vesper found out about Rebecca through social media. She sent one final text. "Hope she's prepared for what she's getting into. Dating someone wealthy isn't as easy as it looks." Even then, she didn't understand. She thought wealth was the challenging part of dating me, when the challenge was figuring out whether someone could love me without knowing about the wealth. Final update: Vesper's influencer career collapsed. The reputation damage made it impossible to maintain lifestyle content. Local businesses stopped working with her, engagement rates dropped, and national brands wouldn't partner with her. She eventually deleted social media accounts and moved back to Arizona to live with family, working retail, and rebuilding away from Vegas. I don't take satisfaction in how things ended. The consequences weren't punishment, they were natural results of building a public persona around material values and getting exposed for holding those values. My relationship with Rebecca has taught me everything about authentic connection. She still works as a pediatric nurse, maintains financial independence, splits dinner bills without thinking twice. When I told her about my family's casino business, she was interested, but it never changed how she treated me. The real test came 8 months ago when I joined my family's corporate leadership team. My income increased dramatically, my public profile became more prominent. Rebecca's reaction was exactly what I'd hoped for. "I'm proud of you for taking on more responsibility. It sounds like challenging work." She didn't ask about salary increases, didn't suggest lifestyle upgrades, didn't hint about expensive gifts. She was excited about the work itself because she knew it mattered to me. I proposed to Rebecca 6 months ago, not with elaborate, expensive gestures, but during a quiet weekend when I realized I couldn't imagine building life with anyone else. Her excitement was about spending our lives together, not about rings or budgets or lifestyle. "I want our wedding to reflect who we actually are," she said, "not who we think we should pretend to be. We're getting married next month in Red Rock Canyon. Nothing flashy, nothing for social media, just celebration with people who matter." The experience taught me that testing someone's character isn't about deception, it's about creating space for authenticity. When people don't know about your advantages, you see who they are when they have nothing to gain from pretending. Vesper never actually loved me. She loved the idea of financial security she thought I represented. When she discovered I could provide more than imagined, she felt frustrated that she'd wasted time not knowing my true value. Rebecca loves me for reasons unrelated to money. My sense of humor, work ethic, family values, how I treat people, my goals beyond financial success. Those are things that make someone want to build life with you. The wealth is there, and we're grateful for opportunities it provides. But it's not the foundation of our relationship or what makes our life together meaningful.